Now, our platform speaker, ethics for digital minds, brain to computer implants, self-driving cars, and autonomous weapons already exist. How should humanists and progressives view the social challenges expected as technologies advance? Terri Karp will explore the kinds of questions that computer scientists are considering. Can consciousness be duplicated? Does intelligence have boundaries? Could a digital mind suffer? Terri Karp has worked in computer and internet technology for many years, including programming mainframe computers in the 1980s, designing and developing multiple software projects for an international corporation, and website development. Terri, who graduated with honors in economics from Rutgers College, has managed multi-million-dollar projects and led training in the use of software systems that she created. She will draw on her deep interest in philosophy, science, and technology in this jargon-free discussion of the ethics of digital minds. Over to you, Terri.
Thanks, Teresa. Hi, everyone. I'm Terri Karp, yes, and I'm going to share my screen right off the bat. A couple of years ago, my phone broke. Oh, I got on the Verizon website and started a chat. Here, chat means typing, the other person types back, a series of messages. I work as a web developer, so I chat with technicians all the time. But this Verizon tech was making me kind of nuts. I typed, my phone broke, I need to replace it. The response was, great, so you want to buy a new phone? It said that again and again. Wait, I'm chatting with a bot, I realized. Did it say it was going to be a bot? I became instantly furious and typed human in caps. So this bot failed the Turing test. I knew it was not human. That Verizon would test this Tin Man don't on me, a paying customer, completely ticked me off. But will it be that way forever? Will there ever be a robot you want to talk to? What will it be like when the bot says, oh, hi, Terri, I see your phone is broken. It's still under warranty. Let's get you fixed up right away. Now, the AI biz is littered with ups and downs, decades of dour pessimism, alternating with wild optimism. In 1965, AI pioneer Herb Simon said, machines will be capable within 20 years of doing any work a man can do. Now, Herb was a brilliant guy, but he gives us reason to be skeptical of any claims right there. In fact, a part of me doesn't believe that a plane can fly or a battleship can float. They defy the laws of physics, right? I'm in good company. Lord Kelvin, the thermodynamics pioneer, said things like, heavier than air flying machines are impossible. But planes fly and ships float. So maybe computers won't always be Tin Man dolts. You've heard of Moore's Law, a prediction that's always on the verge of being dead. It hung on until just a couple of years ago, from 1965, the same year as Herb Simon's prediction. Gordon Moore said that year something less dramatic, but more accurate and more profound. The number of transistors per silicon chip will continue to double every year. So what? But someone has said, if Silicon Valley had a heartbeat, it's Moore's Law. Here's a graph of something close, calculations per second in constant dollars from 1900 to now. See that nice gentle increase? Good for us. But hang on, check out that y-axis. That goes from 10 to 1000 to 100,000. So this scale is logarithmic. On a linear scale, that would shoot straight up. I started programming computers in 1977. Let's go back just a few years before that, when most of us first encountered computers. Through games. Now, games are the ballpark of our friend, Paulo Ribeiro, but I need to take up the topic too. There's an old saying, game playing is the Drosophila of AI, as the fruit fly is to biologists. Chess, checkers, and Jeopardy let computer scientists test with clear benchmarks and make a vivid statement when they win. Pong appeared around 1972. It was just a dot that bounced back and forth. The players had paddles. We thought it was so cool, but we've come a long way. TVs and movies are essentially passive. Whatever happens, happens. But modern games are immersive. In virtual reality, you are in the action. You are the star. Now, I don't play these games. I get sucked easily enough into civilization games, not the most realistic. In these, turn by turn, you're kind of a god nurturing a civilization. This was anticipated by Sigmund Freud. Man has become kind of a prosthetic god. When he puts on all his auxiliary organs, he is truly magnificent. Future ages will bring with them new and possibly unimaginable great advances in this field of civilization that will increase man's likeness to God still more. So that quote was from Civilization and Its Discontents. I don't know if you could see this book. So hang on. Sigmund Freud knew I'd be addicted to a game called Civilization. He's quite a therapist, huh? So perhaps we won't all feel like gods. In fact, sometimes quite the opposite lately. Garry Kasparov said, "A computer will never beat me," 7 years before being beaten by Deep Blue. Let's forgive Gary. He was at the top of his game, literally, in one of the most intellectually challenging games. So his swagger was well earned. Humans are tops. We're smarter than anyone around. Chickens, lions, bees. It's true that some species can find pollen better than us or make sounds that travel in the ocean really well. But at this point, they all depend on us to leave them a tiny part of the planet, if we feel like it. And we typically don't. So for, let's say, around 70,000 years or so, we're top of the hill. What could knock us off the top? Aliens? Around the same time as Pong, there was Shaky, the first robot to use AI. I was almost going to queue up a video, but it's embarrassing. They called him Shaky. How about we zoom ahead to the state-of-the-art robot of not too long ago, 2015. Let's watch a video for this one. So how embarrassing. Just too cringy, right? Now, remember, this is 2015. Are we still falling over our own feet 6 years later? Hang on. This guy's from Boston Dynamics, and I think you're going to see he's got some moves. Now, it took just about 6 years for these robots to go from a slip on a banana peel joke to, I'm going to say, the rock and roll Terminator. Now, AI researchers hate when people reference the Terminator. They really do. Although this guy is an amazing feat of physical engineering, it's not just about hardware, faster computers, more transistors on a chip, or even calculations per second. It's also software. It's twisting there. Look at him go. Oh, there's the dog. All right. We were waiting for the dog. In conventional or procedural programming, I, the programmer, must predict and define the inputs exactly and detail the rules of processing, directing exactly how the computer will produce the explicitly desired results. An expert system can be considered an artificial intelligence, and it can be coded that way. Programmers and subject matter experts simulate the decisions a human expert in a particular field would make by loading facts and procedures. A medical expert system might diagnose an illness based on a cluster of symptoms using an elaborate series of if, then, else rules. This has limitations. What will allow good old-fashioned artificial intelligence to become AGI, artificial general intelligence? One technique that's paying off and that researchers envisioned decades ago is machine learning. That is, the thing that does the improving improves itself. Machine learning turns programming upside down. Here, the programmer doesn't write the rules. We provide a data set that the computer begins with, the objectives we would like to see, and we let it develop the rules based on feedback. Humans can still be involved to train the algorithm, tweaking this and that. Now, I don't know how to code using machine learning, but I could learn. Google, Amazon, and others offer free machine learning courses that anyone can take. They let you use their machines. The computer that beat Kasparov was programmed the old-fashioned way, and won just by applying the rules written by programmers, searching decision trees, exploring the next best move, many, many moves ahead. It caught Kasparov off guard because it had gone fast, faster than he expected in those 7 years, allowing it to look more moves ahead in the time allowed. Faster counts. More on that later. Now, chess programs are built with deep learning, an advanced type of machine learning. AlphaZero, Google's DeepMind chess project, was built with an initial starter algorithm that was given only the rules of the game, no strategy whatsoever. It began learning by playing itself, making random moves. Only the winning algorithm survived to the next generation of play. It's kind of like a super fast survival of the smartest evolution using massive amounts of data. In this case, data is generated itself. After just 2 hours, AlphaZero began beating humans. After 4 hours, it was beating the best chess engines. Human programmers really can't correct AlphaZero because it's alien to them. Some say AGI is the last technology humanity will ever invent. Again, that's because the thing that's improving improves itself. And really, what's the reason why it would stop or even slow down? The machine learning approach, like so much else in computer science, was anticipated by Alan Turing. Any discussion of AI would be really neglectful to not to mention Turing. But actually, I had mentioned him about that stupid Verizon bot that failed the Turing test. The bot that Verizon tested out on me was not ready to interact with humans. And a few slides back, I asked, do you doubt there would be a bot you'd want to talk to? Let's ask another question. Will they want to talk to us? Let's look at human intelligence, not compared to humans, other animals, but against our own creation. Now, Nick Bostrom, in his book, Superintelligence, I'm showing you that, I don't know if you see it. He says, most people think of smart and dumb this way. There's the village idiot on one side. I'm so tempted to use a political figure here. And Ed Witten, the brilliant theoretical physicist. But the reality, he says, is probably more like this. Most AI researchers agree that within 50 years or earlier, we will probably have constructed minds that have either reached human level of intelligence or zoomed past the really rather arbitrary milepost of human intelligence. And it won't matter very much who the human is. Remember a few slides ago, I asked if aliens would take us down a notch? It'd be really bizarre if we wound up building the aliens ourselves. Computer scientist Stuart Russell asked us to imagine receiving a communication from an alien civilization. Basically, it says, people of Earth, we will arrive on your planet in 50 years. Get ready. Well, that's not a threat exactly, but if we thought it came from real aliens, we would likely take it pretty seriously right away. But we don't seem all that worried about intelligence we're creating. In fact, most of us, including me, think it's kind of cool. Still, who has ever said, this technology will never be misused by anyone? Which brings me to the topic of weapons. If you still doubt that this might be a cause for concern, consider the biggest researcher of AI. It ain't chatty bots. Many Americans are rightly skeptical about the integrity of our military. But the only thing I ever learned from all those hours playing that civilization game was this: you need to patrol your borders. I'll say that again. You really need to patrol your borders. So the military has a legitimate interest in technology. The US admits that drone strikes against terrorist leaders and insurgent leadership have become routine, but they claim putting weapons on unmanned ground vehicles, the Pentagon that has been more cautious. Remember Spot, the robot dog we saw dancing? When the French used him in a military exercise, Boston Dynamics didn't like it. Spot has terms and conditions. They disallow use to harm or intimidate any person or animal as a weapon or to enable any weapon. Did you know that the United States has a National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence? We do. You know who the chair is? Eric Schmidt, one of the founders of Google. They recently issued, very recently, a 756-page report. This from the intro page. Americans have not yet grappled with just how profound the artificial intelligence revolution will impact our economy, national security, and welfare. Big decisions need to be made now to accelerate AI innovation to benefit the US and to defend against the malign uses of AI. Here's a screenshot of their homepage. I like the last two articles. Interesting, right? And they just launched AI.gov. I had to keep updating this talk, by the way. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing for the US government to be studying this, especially when they, I'm going to say, seem to be so open with sharing their findings with the public. But you might ask, why study it at all? Well, because those who are slow to develop lose the race. The report criticizes Russia. Russia in particular has historically demonstrated a willingness to deploy risky and under-tested weapon systems. So here's the Euron unmanned combat armed vehicle robot. It performed badly in Russia. Imagine seeing that baby headed down Larch Avenue. But they're particularly concerned about China, who is an AI peer in many areas and an AI leader in some applications. We take their ambitions to surpass the US as the world's AI leader within a decade seriously. As flawed as the US is, I don't want China to get there first. I'm not moving to Hong Kong anytime soon, and I hope we don't. Now, we do have issues. Recently, our administrative director, David Bland, hosted a talkback about built-in bias in algorithms. He's interviewing there the New Jersey Attorney General and other experts. I encourage you to watch that. Maybe we'll put the link to that in the chat. It's a really important issue and really dominates AI. But since we have that resource, I'm going to just say that here that some presume that much of the bias in AIs right now is because of lazy programming. For example, the initial data sets for facial recognition predominantly used white people as examples. Speaking as a lazy programmer myself, I kind of believe it. But there's no giving a pass to the Chinese social credit system. They're very open about their intentions. According to their own plan, the social credit system will manage the rewards and punishments of citizens on the basis of their economic and personal behavior. The punishments: flight ban, slow internet connection, exclusion from private schools, high prestige work and hotels. Black Mirror indeed. But none of this really needs smart AI. The problems here so far are just other humans being mean to other humans with really great tools. What about when a social coercion system or military apparatus gets away from its creator? Now, before I start in on this, I want you to know there are many people who are not at all convinced we have a serious problem. Roger Penrose, Steve Pinker, Noam Chomsky, Gary Marcus, they note missed milestones and they're skeptical of runaway advances outside of closed systems like a chessboard. But Stephen Hawking, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Pope Francis consider runaway AI a real threat. On the third hand, some think we're going to have super intelligent machines, but are optimistic that we'll get it right. Ray Kurzweil, for instance, is an adherent of transhumanism, which is a movement that advocates for developing and making widely available technologies to eliminate aging and greatly enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capabilities. Okay. Elon Musk is scared and optimistic at the same time, seemingly about what he himself is about to do. So he refers to our fingers as meat sticks that we integrate currently with our digital selves. More on this later. In his overwrought dramatic style, he also says that AI is more dangerous than nukes. And with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. Okay. As in the Skynet problem being the demon. Because researchers think that AI will accelerate without a bounding limit, remember there's no stop, there's nothing on the end of that arrow of intelligence, they imagine that some seed AI might advance itself rapidly, possibly very rapidly, causing an intelligence explosion. So imagine AlphaZero, Google's DeepMind chess, that becomes the best chess player in 4 hours, but not just chess, everything. A seed AI suddenly becomes an AGI, an artificial general intelligence. In the case of the Terminator movies, and as I said, AI researchers are so sick of this, but it's useful, so what the heck, let's do it. Here, the benign Skynet got really smart, really fast, and decided that its goals were best served by getting rid of us. And humanity couldn't wrest control of it. The screenwriters were fuzzy on the fine points, but let's untangle 3 aspects of the story. 1, the final goals of the AI. 2, the speed of takeoff. And 3, our ability to control it. So let's first look at the goals. Whatever goals the first AGI was planted with might become instantiated in our world in a literal way. So a common example is a lazy programmer. Who's that? Tests a seed AI, giving it a goal of, it's just something stupid, let's say, make as many paper clips as possible. Then that AI happens to be the first to become super intelligent. It proceeds to take all the resources it can procure and turn them into paper clips. It grinds up the programmer, the lab, the town, turning everything into paper clips. It's the Frankensteinian paperclip monster. When it's done with the town, it starts eating the United States. It protects itself from being shut down by attacking anyone who doesn't want to become a paperclip. After Earth, it starts a space program to harvest the planets. At the heat death of the universe, it's paperclips all the way down. Now, I've been a programmer a long time, and I've coded some pretty bad bugs in my day, but hey. Now, that was an admittedly cartoon example, but it makes the point that we should not anthropomorphize the motivations of an AI. Anyone who's gotten into an argument with Alexa should know it really doesn't understand what we see as ridiculous. But we give it its goals, right? But as Nick Bostrom says, we can't even agree on what our own values are, let alone teach the ones we have to an AI. Isaac Asimov famously coined the 3 laws of robotics in the 1940s. First, a robot may not injure a human being. Second, it must obey orders. Third, it can protect itself. That sounds simple. What could go wrong? But all the fun of Asimov's stories were where these laws didn't work. Computer scientist Roman Yablonsky considered decisions being doped out right now by Tesla today. Okay, let's play. You're the programmer. Your car hears one of its passengers say, "Stop the car." What do you make the car do? Option 1 might be stop immediately. Even in high-speed traffic, even if it's said by a toddler. How about stop as soon as it's safe, but ASAP? It sounds reasonable. How about you interpret it as I need a bathroom and head for the first rest stop? How about you pull into a rest stop after you, the car, notice your human has finished his big gulp soda, but before he says anything? Finally, consider this. Stop at a gym because your human has gained weight and his doctor told him to get more exercise. Maybe at that point, Super Butler is overreaching. Yablonsky says, we can retain human control or cede power to an AI, but neither option gives us both control and safety. Humanity can be protected or respected, not both. So in that scenario, our car is still looking out for us, still on our side. We've succeeded in the motivation problem. We're not paperclips. We're still creeped out. Let's consider the second big thing. What happens when we have reason to believe we're on hour 3 of a 4-hour program to our friend here? The important part of the Terminator story was that it happens fast. The takeoff is maybe about as fast as AlphaZero becoming the best chess player. That makes it hard for humans to react, right? Now, here's the third big thing. Recently, I was chatting about my concerns with a really smart ethical person. He said, well, you're joking, right? We can just unplug it or keep it in a box. And then I asked him, how long would it take you to escape from a box your little pet dog put you in? Even if your little dog really did his best to make sure you stayed trapped. He said, oh, that's a problem. Because his dog is between a mouse and the chimp. And if the AI we're trying to keep in a box is off to the right of that arrow, well, if we put it in a physical box and disconnect it from other computers, it couldn't hurt anything, right? But it may be able to generate radio waves, shuffling its electrons in its own circuits, affecting the physical world in an outside way. Well, you might say we can prevent that too. But what if we didn't think of that? Or the 100 other strategies that a machine 5 times as smart as Ed Witten could think of? That's the power of intelligence. Also, if we're dependent on these complex systems, it'd be hard to turn off your cell phone, your home router, your country's defense systems. Can't turn off the internet. There's no switch. And it won't be easier the day that the internet magics itself into consciousness. Now, consciousness is a big word, always a topic in philosophy. Are animals conscious? Is consciousness the same as the self? And is it real or is it an illusion, as the Buddha says? Now, I'm definitely conscious, but are you? You claim to be, and based on my own experience, I guess I believe you. But what happens when an AI claims to be conscious? What if it makes all the right noises, that it's self-aware? What if it exhibits behavior that it's sentient? Descartes, the I think, therefore I am guy from the 1600s, saw mechanisms in the royal gardens performing sophisticated patterns. He considered animals and even humans in their movements to be mechanical or hydraulic. Fluid is forced into a pipe there, it necessarily pushes against a piston here. He knew about parrots and thought that a machine could parrot human speech eventually, but never use language creatively. He held that machines could never attain the idea of God or hold abstract conceptions like mathematics or justice. So to be or not to be, a computer will never answer Hamlet. Now, John Searle devised his famous Chinese room experiment. Let's say a person is in a room with 2 slots on the wall. From one slot, cards with symbols come in. This person is trained to look up the symbol, write the corresponding symbol from a book onto a new card, and push his new symbol out the other slot. He doesn't realize the symbols are Chinese, and he's translating Chinese. He doesn't know what he's translating, and he certainly doesn't understand what he's written. This is not thinking, Searle says. This is what a computer does. It will never think. But according to Steve Pinker, speed matters. If the translator isn't a guy with a book, but rather an entity running at 100 teraflops, that's about 100 trillion calculations per second, or about equal to a human brain. Suppose it can recognize idioms, construct unique and creative original works, which computers already have, can make up jokes, some already have. They're not really ready for the circuit, but jokes. Does it matter? They're not made of meat. E.J. Dijkstra said, the question of whether machines can think is about as relevant as the question of whether submarines can swim. So far, we've considered a few scenarios. First, how humans might use smart machines against other humans. Second, if our super butlers might overreach. And then, what if machines actually become malevolent against us? But let's consider, is it possible we could be the bad guys? Since we're here at the Ethical Culture Society, we want to be sure we're on considered ground in thinking about these new entities that could become sentient. Even if I can't think in that special way that humans can, should I have rights? The appeal by Jeremy Bentham to give animal rights was, can they suffer? In the Star Trek episode, The Measure of Man, Commander Data, an android, finds himself on trial to save himself from being dismantled for a questionable scientific purpose. His defense at trial, given by his commanding officer, may not be Shakespeare's Shylock speech, but I defy anybody not to be moved by it. Okay, let's flip back to concerns about the machine, this time not realizing it's doing something bad. What if an AI runs simulations on how it should care for its humans by creating a synthetic human brain to test on? Maybe it built this brain emulating biological humans, molecule by molecule. Perhaps it builds the thousands of them. Then suppose our main AI proceeds to run experiments on them to understand us better. It starts to test our digital cousins for their capacity for suffering, for longing, for boredom, for whatever else. What if these digital lab rats are just as capable of suffering with the intensity of one of us? There might be a Holocaust every second without us even noticing. Okay, that's all pretty doom and gloom. I meant this to be an optimistic talk. I'm doing. There really are counterweight upsides. AI is really helping us to solve problems. There are machine learning initiatives to combat climate change, model emissions designed for building efficiency. Autonomous vehicles will really be more efficient and much safer than us lead-foot humans. Closer to home, we invite Alexa and Siri into our lives. I'm often concerned about these insidious machines, but I have a friend who just brushes off concerns. She simply doesn't care that Siri, Google, and Alexa are listening. She has all three services going at once, except the convenience, she says. Not using these is meaningless theater. I've come to appreciate these services. I talk to them. I argue with them. When I have trouble sleeping, Alexa plays an audiobook for the amount of time I say. Right now, I'm wearing a Fitbit. It's owned by Google, and it helps keep me in shape. I carry my Android phone with me everywhere. It lets me talk to my peeps while I'm on a walk. My lousy sense of direction no longer keeps me from venturing out, thanks to Google Maps. That is really huge for me. Now, in repayment, Google knows more details about me than anyone. My steps, my trips, my conversations, my photos. There's really no end, is there? Some, like Ray Kurzweil, say that this trend will continue and we don't need to worry about AI going nuts because it will become us. We'll merge with it. Less than 10 years ago, Nick Bostrom said any interface between our wetware would be limited. A natural organic brain is just a diffusion of nerves, right? How do you get those to absorb a flood of new information about how to surf or fly a jet plane? But within a year, the last year, again, that didn't take that long, Elon Musk has already put a device, Neuralink, he calls it a Fitbit for the brain, inside the head of pigs and monkeys. Remember Pong, that so cool video game from the 1970s? Here's a monkey playing Pong with his brain, wirelessly. Wirelessly. That's what really gets me, wirelessly. Okay, let's say for a moment we threw away our distrust of massive surveillance and just went with the capabilities that are promised. Susan Schneider, philosopher, poses this. Suppose it's 2040, you're out shopping, you stroll into a store in the mall that engages in cosmetic neurology. You can choose from a variety of brain enhancements. Human calculator will give you savant level mathematical abilities. Zen garden, the meditative states of a Zen master with all that boring meditation. Let's say you could experience being the musical genius of Mozart. or understand relativity on a deeper level than Einstein. Let's say you could undergo a minor medical procedure and you could walk along the ocean floor for hours. Will there be downsides? Oh yeah, underwater, you might have to watch an ad every 20 yards or so. That's a joke. We understand these enhancements will, at least initially, be expensive. The digital divide will be child's play compared to what's been called eugenics on steroids. Those who don't enhance might sound to the enhanced something like a cow sounds to us. Would they be listened to? Would they be respected? Based on how we treat creatures less smart than we are, not even giving them a tiny amount of earth, mostly because we don't think about it? The unfortunate answer is no. We probably won't respect the unenhanced. Maybe the unenhanced will be us. Probably at best, they would be ignored. All right, now I've just touched the surface here and was more negative really than I want to be. But there's so much fascinating recent history about building artificial minds. I have 3 thoughts I want to leave you folks in the Ethical Culture Society with, though. First, philosopher Yuval Noah Harari makes the point that people who don't understand they are hackable are the most hackable. So understand this stuff is coming. Get used to it. Elon Musk says the future's going to be weird, but don't hide. No one here is going to be fooled by a Nigerian prince email, but recognize what the next prince might look like. Second, as Eric Schmidt, Google co-founder and chair of the Security Commission on AI, said, big decisions need to be made now. Those decisions should be under the scrutiny of knowledgeable citizens at every turn. That's us. So again, don't be afraid of technology. Understand it. Know it's coming. Vote with knowledge. Finally, I suggest let's aim higher. Many of us here identify as humanists. That tradition would have us strive to have the digital minds that will soon live alongside us and perhaps even merge with us, embody our ideals, goals, and projects. Let's continually evaluate what holds meaning for us. Beauty, knowledge, complexity, nature, uniqueness. Let's affirm those values and pass them down as goals for the generation of beings that'll come after us, whatever their component parts are made of. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Terri. You have distilled an enormous amount of information for us. I feel like I've just had a graduate level course in AI. Thank you. I am going to be among those who raise my hand because I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
But I'll open it up to others first.
Okay. Bring them on. Uh-oh, I see Paolo there. This is going to be a tough question. Take him last.
Yeah, so that was great. Thank you. Admittedly, I'm a little less concerned, at least in the near future, about some of the stuff. I think brain enhancements and super intelligent AI are all things that I may be dealing with in my older age, but I think in the more immediate term, I think some of the things like you brought up, like social credit systems, I think are a much bigger problem. And I wanted to get your thoughts on things like the use of algorithms for things like prison sentencing and bail determination, which has been shown in some cases, also like teacher assessments too. But in the case of the bail and the sentencing systems, they've discovered that a lot of the input information that they're inputting into the system is reinforcing racial disparities. So just determining someone's sentence based on their zip code is like just right off the bat going to mean that Black people get much longer prison sentences or much larger bails. This has been already demonstrated at this point, and so now it's this process of how do we de-racialize the data set that we're putting in here. So I don't know if you have
Right,
any thoughts on
right.
all that.
Yeah, I sure do. And thanks for that question. I'm glad he went first. Because that's a huge topic, especially since that ProPublica article came out that really blasted us all out of our complacency about this. So, but I felt at liberty really to short shrift that there's so much because of David Bland's really excellent panel discussion with the New Jersey Attorney General and other experts. So if that could be put in the chat, that would be really terrific. But yeah, I'm very happy to discuss that. So selection bias happens when we select individuals, groups, or data for analysis without proper randomization, okay? And confirmation bias is when we interpret, favor, or recall information that confirms or supports our prior beliefs or values. So when selection bias meets confirmation bias, they spin around each other, creating really negative feedbacks. So, so you identified pretty well just in your question, the sentencing, the algorithmic sentencing. So I'll go to another part that might be like hotspots. So when individuals are, so let's say you're a police chief in a city, and you're just really trying to do the best you can to keep your city safe. So you've always watched hotspots in your city closer, but now these algorithms are very much agreeing with you because they're based on prior knowledge. But so they recommend even further police scrutiny of these hotspots. So when you're watched, wherever you're looking, that's where you're going to find things, especially low-level crime. So people smoke weed and do bad stuff throughout the city. But if you happen to live in one of these hotspots, you're very much more likely to be detected, prosecuted, brought into a system where otherwise you would have been left alone. So the hotspot gets even hotter. I'm going to say on the topic of bias, I really want to pull this to be somewhat more optimistic. We have now, okay, so we've trained an entity. An entity has formed, a soul arising from the dust, to be really overwrought about it. It came to awareness by digesting our culture, by looking at us, by mimicking us. Now we look at it and we're horrified. We don't like what we see. We see all these flaws, what a wonderful and unique, really unique opportunity we have here. A true mirror. We've never had that before. You can't fix what you don't know about, but we can now fix what we see in our true mirror. So this gives us a chance at nothing less than redemption. Any easy questions?
Does she want me to call on them? Or
Yeah, maybe.
okay. Pam Berglund, you're next. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Terry, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful talk this morning. Now, I have a really concern about seniors and computers. You know, I've been trying to reach a doctor on the phone, can't get one on the phone because everything is through a computer IVR.
Mm-hmm.
And seniors don't have computers like our younger people have computers. I have a laptop and I have an Android because I'm educated, but we're losing our senior population. We're losing the help that they need, and they can't get that help through AI if they don't have AI themselves. So we're going too far ahead of ourselves and leaving the seniors behind. And that's what scares me.
Right. Pam, that is well, it's interesting what you're saying, right? So I very much agree that as a matter of fact, I started my talk with a discussion of my broken phone and how absolutely unreasonably furious I was when I can't get, and there is no one that gets more nuts than me when I'm caught in one of those horrible, phone menu loops that you can't get out of. As soon as I finally get connected to a human, I am so grumpy that it takes me like a minute or a minute and a half just to calm down and I will often say, things like, I already answered your robot with that information. And then they say in their human way, oh, I'm sorry, I have no control over that. In the ethical culture society, I'm going to say each person has to do their best to come to fore, to keep up with the realities that you live in at that time. And I realize it's getting harder. But hopefully with AI, they won't be stupid bots. Hopefully they'll be smart bots. And hopefully they will help our seniors. I know Japan is very interested, as a matter of fact, in helping seniors with, their burgeoning senior community with AI. So if you observe the AI researchers, they're trying to do the opposite of what you're worried about. What you're worried about is the technology gets harder and harder to use, but AI intends for the technology to get easier and easier.
Hey, Rachel Herman, you're next. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rachel said she's going to send her message via chat.
Okay, I see it here. I'll read it. What role should a programmer or web developer play with making sure their applications /site/AI bot take into consideration accessibility? And she gives some abbreviations that I don't understand, called WCAG or VPATS. I'm not sure what those are. Is there social responsibility to make sure the public is aware of protecting their PII? I'm not sure what that is and what that means.
Okay, yeah, I have developed websites, and I'm always, sometimes clients will give you quite unusual design goals. And I usually will just do whatever they say, or to the extent that it is reasonable. When a county agency came to me with a design to have their website look like an American flag with bright white stripes alternating with red, I did pull out those accessibility testers and show them that the colors would not be considered accessible, and for a county organization, this might be not a good thing. So I think, just as developers, we should keep that in mind. I try to, especially where it's in applications, I think it would be critical. But thanks for bringing that up. That's an important issue, and I have had some hands-on work with that.
Teresa Forsman, you're next. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, before I ask my real question, I want to ask a teeny tiny question. That commission that Eric Schmidt is the chairman of, I just wonder, are there any sort of philosophers or psychologists or ministers or those kind of people on that commission?
That's an excellent question. I don't have the answer to that. I assume there are. My eyeballs went straight to Eric Schmidt. Go to ai.gov or the report. I can eventually put the report at ai.gov. Sure. We'll be able to tell you. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm sure there are. These guys really tend to cover their bases for that kind of thing.
I tend to think of you as knowing everything, Terry, so that's why I asked. I don't know a lot about AI, but I'm just really jazzed by the breakthroughs in neuroscience. And the more I read about neuroscience and our brain, the more I get it, that I'm a machine. I understand that. So when you said we will merge with AI, And I thought, okay, so as AI becomes more intelligent and develops what we see as emotions, is that going to happen to us too? Or are we at the same time going to go in the opposite direction? Are we going to become more machine-like? As they develop their intelligence and their capacity for empathy, are we going to have less or more?
Now, that's a really, will they feel? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I don't know about whether they will feel, but when they have the capacity to anticipate the quote unquote correct response that involves what appears to be empathy or sympathy or anger or whatever, I don't know, as they develop more intelligent, as they become intelligent, that general intelligence and possibly maybe even mimicking emotion, when you say we'll merge with AI, I wonder, are they going to take us along with them, or will we be left behind in the village idiot spot?
Oh, the village idiot spot. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's really interesting. So if we don't merge with AI, then well, let's say some folks merge with AI and others don't. That was the slide in my talk of that sad little animal in the cage. What would we really sound like? I did hear a AI researcher say that, now these guys might not be the most brilliant, but did say that we could sound like cows to the unenhanced. So now I'm not sure how we're going to feel. I'm not sure if they will ever feel like we feel, or how that sort of merging of feelings would go. So let's take a feeling itself. So I'm a chess player and not a great one, but I know the feeling when I see a series of moves pop in my head at once, and I know, oh, this is a good one. Now, did Deep Blue feel that when it knew it was going to sock it to Kasparov? I don't think so, but deeper blue might. What does it mean to be sentient? I don't know. That's an excellent question. How we're going to change, how they're going to change. So let's say, so Nick Bostrom talks about this, and this is, I can't help but think this is cool, although some might think it's horrible. So the easiest way to imagine superintelligence is to imagine our brains, but much faster. So let's say we can run a human brain on a machine platform that goes 100,000 times faster than our brain currently does. Let's say we could do that. Okay, so let's say you're sitting with your friend having tea, and your friend drops his teacup because he's a clumsy human, unenhanced. You might, as he drops it, you're running, remember, 10,000 times faster, let's say. At that speed, it would seem to take hours for the teacup to drop from his hand towards the floor. So you could snatch up the cup, spill up any, wipe up any spillage. You could take a nap, come back, and he didn't even know he dropped it. So this is what we could be looking towards. That's what 100,000 times means. And to computer scientists, grabbing much more speed that's just what we do. So that's, I hope, a little insight into your question. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Terri.
Sorry, Anu Podki, you're next. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, Terry, to start with, I know that the bots, talking to bots is very, very annoying. And I
I
see that
know.
websites these days are telling that I am a bot. I'm really
Right.
happy about it. So
Right.
that's a good thing. Yeah. And the real issue I think that we are going to face in next 5 to 10 years is the disparity of the income. That's good. Or rather, really, some jobs are going to disappear, and I think ethically that's going to be an important issue. And what people are talking about, the universal basic income, is the right way to start looking into it. And I think Oakland in California already started implementing it, which is a great thing. It wasn't basically from AI angle, but whatever. And I think about the feeling, the AI, to make AI feel, it's probably related to the what they call the hard problem of consciousness. And I don't know, until we resolve that, we can make AI feel. Yeah, that's all I had to say.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so there was kind of two questions. You're concerned about unemployment, and a lot of smart people are. Um, so self-driving cars. They seem to be stalled right now. That's a joke. In I read recently, I could be getting this wrong, in the last 15 years, 2% of people in the United States lost their job due to automation. It really does seem that new jobs do seem to bubble up. Now, when truck drivers are just put out of work, that's a huge percent of the population. So is that mechanism going to just work? So what we've seen through, through all of since forever, is that mechanization, first came to the home-based workers, spinning cloth and whatnot, and moved them to factories. And then factories workers got outsourced and then now replaced by tech. So I might need an accountant, but thanks to TurboTax, many people don't. Technology increasingly defining the winners and losers in our world. So the corner shop owners are replaced by Amazon, and Bezos is a billionaire who doesn't pay taxes. But there's a writer for Bloomberg, Noah Smith, who I like a lot, and he's no Luddite. And for the foreseeable future, he isn't worried. So engineers replace tasks, not jobs, and there's a difference between the two. And right now, unemployment is at record lows. The manufacturing jobs that were high paying and service jobs opened up, and they were not. But South Korea, Germany, and Japan are rich countries, and they're doing well, even with, a lot of automation. So Bill de Blasio is put out forth the idea of a robot tax. And we think that that's probably not a good idea. All that's going to wind up doing is driving technology away from New York. And you really don't want to do that. So it is a topic that we're concerned about, and UBI is a thing. So you were talking about the hard problem of consciousness too, right? Yeah, consciousness is a critical crisis, I'm going to say. So how do you discern what consciousness is? So most people believe in dualism, right? The mind is separable from the body. Most often, not always, it's separated after death. Religions often teach us this doctrine of mind, the essence and soul, and continues and is rewarded or punished or is reincarnated. We don't know. There's no evidence that survives scientific scrutiny, as far as I know. So most scientists are monists, that only what's physical is real. No one finds it interesting or useful to claim that there's something magical about digestion. It's just what the stomach does. But people don't like when that analogy is made, that, consciousness is just what the brain does, right? No one is really crazy about that. But Is it the same thing? Is it not the same thing? Is there really something very special about consciousness? Of course, interestingly, it's possible to turn monism on its head, and that is that the only things that exist is the mind, right? Platonic idealism and mathematical idealism, and the matrix. Life is hard, whatever gets you through, and in those kind of things. So I'm going to say I don't know. It's I'll tell a little bit more about that. So based on physicalism, then can we duplicate consciousness? I remember in his book, How the Mind Works, Steve Pinker laid out the 4 levels of a neural net. So there's the sensation filter, picking up stimuli, raw experiences. So this would be the first level of sentience. And then there's the spotlight of awareness. Okay, what I actually turn my attention to. So there's a jackhammer going on outside, but I'm not hearing it really. And then there's the emotional reaction layer, like how do I deal with this? And Marvin Minsky is an AI researcher, and he talked about the society of the mind, where modules in the mind are competing to bring the decision go one way or another based on the stimulus. And then there's the executive I, consciousness, the thing that makes the decision. So, and what we see in AI, and they're building neural nets that kind of match this functional structure. So the one level of the first filter will be a set of neurons that detects the outside world, and then it gets filtered up into finally a decision. So a very good and it's interesting how they do it differently. They kind of turn it on its head again. They're looking for to minimize the loss function. So they just randomly guess things when the algorithm starts out as the starter algorithm, the seed algorithm, and then they try to minimize the amount of error, which is apparently it's how they think they're going to build it. Thank you for those questions.
Diane Kozarski, please unmute yourself and go ahead. And by the way, we only will have time for this plus 2 other questions. Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you, Terry, for leading us through this astonishing new phase of life. I had 2 comments to make. One's kind of a question, one's a comment. I think we can already see how artificial intelligence in the world of social media has modified human behavior. If the oldest among us look at younger people's sense of privacy, what matters a lot in terms of their media consumption, it's so very different from ours, I think. Influencers, big creation of all the little bits and pieces that have gone into what is cute on a cell phone and what drives your feed in your desktop or laptop. So that's kind of obvious. But I was wondering if you'd care to endorse my feeling that a lot of the flaws and weirdness of AI intelligence set up today, like racial disparities in recognition software, or this drive to display only inflammatory or clickbait material, is a gendered problem. Because sparing Ada Lovelace, it's my impression that the brains that went into cooking up the internet and all the programming that came after that is 99.9% male. I was going to say and capitalist, but now the Chinese have me a little flummoxed. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I'm all for women programmers, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you see a gender skew in the way, the flavor that's come out so far?
Well, I did reference at least one philosopher, Susan Schneider, who was a woman, and I wasn't looking for gender parity, but I did mention more men, that is for sure. And so perhaps my talk here is gender biased. And it is, but again, it's a selection confirmation bias that we have ourselves, right? So I didn't intend to be gender biased, but there I was in my own talk. So that's kind of meta about that, right? I'm going to say we have to be aware of it, and Google has had I won't even mention what they did, but they had an image labeling. Image labeling is a big deal, because if you can label images, you know a lot. Being able to see, discern what you're looking at, that is critical. So there's lots of libraries around for doing that. And in one of Google's had a very embarrassing moment where they labeled something extremely inaccurately. And when it was pointed out to them, it was a huge deal that went all the way up to the top, and they're still hearing about it. So a lot of smart people are very concerned about this topic and how to move away from bias. But I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna try and pull this to be a little more optimistic. So let's compare AI not to perfection, but to us. So let's say you've just been, I just heard this recently on the radio, like yesterday. If you've just been convicted of a crime, you should hope your sentencing hearing isn't on the Monday after a Sunday where your sentencing judge, where his football team just lost. Because if you do that, if your sentencing hearing is on that Monday, you're more statistically likely to get a tougher sentence. So how fair is that? Similarly, self-driving cars, let's say self-driving cars kill 100,000 people a year, and that would be terrible. Each incident would be rightly scrutinized with outrage and indignation. But consider that currently well over 1 million people are killed on roads every year. So that's 900,000 people who aren't dead. But it's hard for those 900,000 people to be outraged because they're not dead, and they don't know that they would have been dead. So when we detect bias, when we detect imperfections in this sense, we have to take it seriously and root it out. I mean, and I don't mean to be complacent just because we're thinking we've cut traffic. We might cut traffic deaths by 1/10. 1/10 is still not good enough. Let's cut it by 100,000. Let's have no bias in our social media that we consume. Let's not bring people to the edges and the extreme. Let's vote for that. That's why I'm always been a proponent of, especially in our progressive community, to have values that really are progressive, that we understand what's going on. We understand and appreciate progress and want to direct it. Thanks for that.
Okay, I know we said we had time for 2 more questions, but actually it is 12:30 and we are out of time. So I will ask the 2 people who are in the queue to just wait, and we'll finish off the official portion of the program. And then Terri, I'm sure you can stick around to continue the discussion, right?
Of course.
To learn more about us, visit our website, ethicalfocus.org, or email us at admin@ethicalfocus.org, and we'll get back to you. To make a donation, go to ethicalfocus.org/donate. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can watch many of our past programs on our YouTube channel.